Hey Don, you know, with this deal in particular, it goes 6 years, but how important, I guess, was it just in the long term to keep him here, in that length of term, and at the AAV that you got him.
Well, this season, I think Matthew's taken a big step, not only on the ice and his performance, but in the locker room. He's been one of our key guys that's led us through this charge here. And, I've got to know him over the year. Obviously, I didn't know him before this year. I knew him as a player and, um, what he brings to the table, not just offensively, but physically. I think he leads second in the league in hits. This year, he's one of well, he's our most physical player, and we just felt that I know I got a lot of calls on him, and so I knew if this went to free agency, he would be in demand. Everybody's looking for these types of players for the most part, so we just felt that we were comfortable with the turn and the AAV, and we're very happy to have him for 6 years.
I'll just follow up really quick with you've had I think we talked in the past about you having a lot of free agents as we head towards this deadline and everything. Was Olivier a guy that you kind of identified fairly early on this season after the way he was playing as somebody that you would rather maybe try and keep rather than trade?
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't going to react initially with any of our free agents. I wanted to get to know these guys not only as players but as people. We want to make sure we got the right personnel here on and off the ice. And so as the season went on, and I just paid attention to how Matthew operated and got comfortable with getting to a point of calling his agent Phil DeCavier, who we worked on this for a long time to. Excuse me, get us to this point. So, yeah, no, I'm very pleased to have him done.
Thank you.
Okay, next we'll go to Aaron Portzline. Go ahead, Aaron.
Morning, Don. Thanks for doing this. I don't want to read into this too much, but I'm guessing he could have made more AAV on the market. And I'm guessing you probably didn't start out wanting to sign him to 6 years. Why, what does it say that he wanted to be here for 6 years? I'm guessing, did he insist on that term or was he pushing for more term than it was that part of from his perspective?
No, he said right off the bat that he wanted to go at least four years out, and we just felt that to bring the AAV down a little bit, to extend him out through 6 years, and I talked to Matthew, obviously not about numbers, but about being here. And certainly his family loves it here. And the biggest thing that I like always to hear is he wants to be part of the solution. And when you hear those things and then you watch him in his actions, you know that he can be part of the solution. So, we're the ones that extended it out a few years to, bring the AAV just where we thought we were comfortable with. So that's how we got there.
Yeah. And one of the challenges here, there's been talent here in the past. One of the challenges here has been keeping it together. I don't know if this is a sign that that's going to change now going into the future, but what are your plans for how to keep this young nucleus here? I mean, they have RFA for a few more years, a lot of them, but that doesn't mean they have to be happy here and want to stay here. We've seen guys pull the chute there before. How do you keep this group together, this group that looks so promising?
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the past. I have no idea in the past, but the way I've always operated, is you treat these players with respect. It's not that you cater to them, but respect them as people and get to know them as people. We just had the mother's trip, and the timing probably wasn't perfect with the outdoor game and trade deadline, but I felt it was important for me to get there and be around the family. So you gotta, there's a personal side to every decision that's made. Money drives most contracts, but you build relationships not just with the players, but with the families in the long term. I truly believe that you get a benefit of the doubt. Doesn't always mean you're gonna be able to keep everybody, but I think it's important to, you know them as a player, obviously, but respect them as people.
Thanks, Don.
Next we'll go to Steve Wino from the AP. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey Don, just curious. You mentioned second and hits for Matthew, but also the fights. What has he meant, sort of as a guy for standing up for teammates and everything in terms of your guys' success this season?
Well, I know one thing, we don't get pushed around at all. We have a few smaller guys and we're not overly physical. Guys play hard, but Matthew certainly has stepped up when the time is needed. He's not as season progresses and that, he probably doesn't have as many fights as some people think he should have because nobody wants to fight him. Let's face it, he's if not the heavyweight of the league, he's right up there, of course. So, you want to make sure your skilled players are comfortable being able to play the way they're capable of playing, and knowing that Matthew's on the bench or on the ice is just an assurance for our players.
And Hedgenport, you talked about you guys unrestricted free agents you have coming up: Dante Fabro, Provorov, Corrali. Like, where do things stand with those guys? Are you optimistic about maybe getting similar extensions done with them?
Not before the deadline, I don't. We've talked to everybody, and I think we wanted to play out the rest of the year and see how things go. This group has been remarkable all season, how they've, regardless of the adversity that's been thrown at us, they've stuck together, and which I'm very proud of. So, you know, instead of getting into negotiations sometimes where there's not a good ending, I think it might be better. And as I've told agents, let's just wait to the end of the season. And if players want to stay here and we can find a compromise between salary and term, we will keep them.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we'll go to Mark Scheid. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Glenn. Good morning, Don. Just over the years, you've seen it all when it just comes to the league in general, but just how important do you feel like Olivier's role as an enforcer is to the future of the game?
100%. I think his type of role that he plays, and can't forget he's got 12 goals this year too. He's playing 14, 15 minutes a night. He's got a lot of trust in his play, kills penalties. So I think you got to, the old days of just having a 12th forward that can only fight. I think those days are gone. I think, you're tougher players in the league. If you look around the league, most of them all can play pretty well. And that was the important thing. His toughness is obviously great, but Matthew can play the game too. And that's what makes this guy a little more special than maybe some other ones we've valued.
And one more, just is there a particular moment this season that has stood out to you when it comes to Mathieu Olivier?
There's numerous times, when our teams needs a little lift. He's been a guy that's been able to stir the pot to get it going, and it's not always fighting. He hits hard. When he hits, if you watch other teams' defense, when they go back for the puck and he's forechecking, they don't want that puck. They're getting rid of it quickly because they know they're going to get hit hard. So, it's interesting to watch because I've seen defensemen throughout the year that'll bail from a play because he knows he's going to get hit hard in the boards and legally too. So, yeah, I don't know if there's one time, like I said, in the locker room, off the ice, he's been there for us all year long, and certainly on the ice, he's answered the bell whenever the team needed a little spark.
Okay. We'll go back to Brian Hedger. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Don, you mentioned just just kind of touched on it a couple times here, but when you look at Olivier and how this season has unfolded, you lose Boone early, you lose Gabranson early. Those are two huge, locker room leaders for you. And this guy just kind of steps right into the void there and becomes a leader immediately. I think he kind of already was to begin with, but even more so. And when you look at his stats, you wouldn't maybe think he's the guy that's going to do that, right? But he does. What does that say about his kind of personality that he brings to the mix here for you guys?
Yeah, when I got here, I only heard good things, but when you're only playing 8 to 9, 10 minutes a night, it's hard to be a true leader. You can be a voice in the locker room, but when you start becoming a bigger part of the team and playing, like I said, 14, 15 minutes and killing penalties and that, the players see you out on the ice blocking shots, taking the body, doing those things, all team. The way Matthew plays, he's a coach's dream because he plays the way the coach wants to play. He gets the puck deep, goes forecheck. So I think a combination of getting more ice time, more responsibility on the team is even enabled him to be even more vocal and more of a leader also.
Last one from me here. Just looking ahead to the deadline. I mean, it's right here now. What can you tell us kind of about what you're thinking at this point in the game with the deadline approaching?
Well, we're certainly making calls and taking calls. I've said all along, we're not in a position to trade first round picks for rental players or anything like that. If we can add around the edges, certainly we're going to try that. More interest in hockey deals with maybe players that have term left on their contract. We're exploring obviously as many of those as we can. We got another 48 hours or 53 hours or whatever it is to try to come up with something that we feel good about. And the other thing is, though, most importantly, so I mentioned what these guys have gone through this year. We want to bring in obviously the best players we can, but we also got to make sure that we know their character and know how they're going to be in the locker room because as I've said before, all the guys that we signed late in the summer there, early training camp, we knew them, and I knew most of them personally. Where I knew they were good people. I knew they could help us on the ice, but they're good people. So that's important. What we have going on, and this is a special year, of course. But through my career as a general manager, you want to surround yourself with good people. Good people find a way to come together and win.
So you don't feel pressure to have to trade anybody.
No, not at all. Not at this point. We have lots of assets, and like I said, it's a little different year than normal. But if I rip a guy out of this locker room right now, that's an effect that's playing a role for us on this hockey club right now. I think that's pretty devastating to our team. I think it's the wrong message from my end. I think it's the wrong message to our fans, the coaches, and the players.
Okay, we have time for a few more. We'll go back to Aaron Portzline. Go ahead, Aaron.
Hey, Don, not to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you think Mathieu Olivier is the toughest fighter in the league right now?
Boy, I haven't seen anybody get him yet. He fights all the big boys, of course. So he's on my team, so I'm in his corner all the way. All I know is I don't want him mad at me. That wouldn't end real well for myself. So I'd have to put him right up there, Aaron.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll close out with Steve Weinel. Go ahead, Steve.
You just mentioned it, Don, just being in this playoff race. I don't know how gratifying, I don't know if that's the right word, or just how fun has this been just to see this team fight for a playoff spot and how much are you looking forward to this down the stretch?
I'm incredibly proud of this group. I kept saying, I kept waiting for the bubble to burst during the season. And, every time somebody else went out, Monahan goes out, Fantilli really steps up, Ken Johnson steps up. It's been remarkable how these guys have hung in there, stuck together, on and off the ice. They do a lot of stuff together off the ice, which I think really helps them on the ice. So yeah, for all my years, this is by far the proudest I ever been to a team of how all this situation, the tragedy, all the injuries that have happened to this team, how we responded to it.